Mr. Eyman, you have the floor, sir.
Well, thank you very much. This is a government resolution telling voters how to vote on a citizen initiative. It is an arrogant, improper use of tax dollars. Voters do not like politicians telling them how they should vote. This hasn't been a public hearing. This has been a politician hearing. This kind of manipulation, however, does not work with the initiative process. Everybody in the state gets to vote on it. You guys can rant and rave all you want. It doesn't really matter. Your vote counts exactly the same as every other voter in the state of Washington, so that's fine. And it doesn't surprise me that there is a poll out that shows that this is passing 70% across the state, and it's leading in Seattle 52 to 48. Those 52% of Seattle voters that are in favor of this measure aren't doing it because they like me. They find that it's completely dishonest to be taxing people on a $10,000 car and taxing it as if it's worth $25,000. And the tax burden, even for the people in Seattle, is absolutely reaching a tipping point where even they are realizing that property taxes are going through the roof, every other tax is going through the roof, they're struggling, they're having a tough time, and this initiative comes along when the legislature had for 2.5 years a way to be able to fix this problem. To say that a $10,000 car is worth $10,000 for taxation purposes, they didn't do that. For 2.5 years, voters have been saying, do something about this problem, and they've done nothing. When this initiative qualified in January, they had an entire legislative session to fix the problem, and they didn't. They could have put an alternative on the ballot. They didn't do that either. They've done absolutely nothing. And why is it that we believe that by voting this initiative down and keeping a dishonest tax in law, that somehow they're going to turn around and start fixing it now? People are getting ripped off. Everybody knows it. And the politicians aren't doing a thing about it. And this initiative is the only way that people can actually fix the problem, get rid of this dishonest tax, and come up with a better system, one where it requires voter approval and one where they have to actually tax a $10,000 vehicle like it's worth $10,000. I think that just the basic point I'd want to make is if it was a private company that was gouging people like this, taking more money than they're really entitled to, the government would shut them down. But because it's the government itself taking more money than there should from the taxpayers, all we're getting is excuses. You're saying it doesn't matter whether or not it's dishonest. It doesn't matter if it's artificially inflated because we're spending the money that we shouldn't be taking from you on really good stuff. And what we're dealing with is we have a state that has a $3.5 billion tax surplus, which is more than enough money to backfill any affected government program, get rid of the dishonest tax, use the surplus in order to be able to backfill the affected programs, and transition to a system that is a heck of a lot more fair. That under 976, they have to get voter approval and they have to use Kelley Blue Book or the actual value of a vehicle. So that if a $10,000 car is going to be taxed, it's going to be taxed at $10,000. That seems reasonable to me. What I find just inconceivable, and I'm out of time, is that you can't recognize the fact that people are extremely upset about this, and they're very upset because their elected officials aren't telling them and acknowledging that it's a problem. Instead, you're saying, just take it because we're using the money on really good stuff. And I think most people think if it's dishonest, you shouldn't be imposing it all, regardless of what you spend the money on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eyman. Would the supporters of the resolution like one last bite of the apple here?
I've just got one more thing to say. So I just bought a